My golden child brother stole and wrecked my truck, and my parents blamed me. So I got him arrested, and now they're begging me to save him. The call came at midnight. Mom's voice fractured through the phone line, each word a barbed plea wrapped in accusations I'd spent 30 years learning to deflect. Dad breathed heavily in the background, his silence more damning than any sermon he'd delivered from our kitchen table. "You have to drop the charges," she said. Not asked, commanded. I let the words hang there, suspended in the space between who I was and who I'd become. Growing up, I learned to make myself small. Each report card, each scholarship, each promotion, they were whispers against my brother's thunder. When he crashed his third car, they bought him a fourth. When I asked to borrow money for community college, Dad's jaw tightened with that familiar disappointment, as if my ambition was a personal failing. I remembered being 12, watching my brother steal $20 from Mom's purse. When she discovered it missing, her eyes found me first, already guilty in her narrative. His charm was a shield I could never replicate. My honesty was a weapon they wielded against me. The truck wasn't just metal and machinery. I'd saved for 3 years working double shifts at the warehouse while my brother floated through his 20s on their checkbook. Every payment felt like reclaiming oxygen in a room that had been suffocating me since childhood. I'd run my hands along its frame the day I bought it, tears streaming down my face. Not from joy alone, but from the recognition that I'd built something they couldn't take credit for. He took it without asking, took my keys from the hook by the door, took my vehicle, took my autonomy like it was his birthright. The police found it wrapped around a telephone pole, his blood alcohol level a constellation of bad decisions they'd spent decades enabling. The charges were simple: theft, DUI, property damage. The consequences were his to carry. "He's your brother," Mom insisted, her voice climbing that octave reserved for martyrdom. But brotherhood, I'd learned, wasn't biology. It was the reciprocity of respect, the mutual recognition of humanity. He'd never seen me as anything more than an obstacle to whatever he wanted in that moment. I thought about the girl I'd been, apologizing for existing, shrinking to accommodate their golden boy's expanding ego. I thought about the woman who'd built herself from those fragments, who'd learned that survival sometimes meant walking away from people who confuse love with unconditional absolution. "No," I said. The word tasted like liberation. Mom's sob pierced through the line. Dad finally spoke, his voice carrying that edge of authority that used to make me fold. "You're destroying this family." But they'd been destroying me for years, and called it love, called it loyalty, called it obligation. I'd spent my childhood being the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who absorbed their disappointments so my brother could remain untarnished. Each time I bent, they expected me to bend further. Each time I gave, they expected more. The inequity had calcified into our family structure, invisible to everyone but me. The arrest wasn't revenge. It was a boundary, drawn in permanent ink after years of pencil sketches they'd erased whenever convenient. "He needs help," I told them, my voice steady. "Real help, not another bailout." The silence that followed was dense with their comprehension. I wasn't the pliable daughter anymore. I was the architect of my own decisions, and their approval was no longer the currency I traded my dignity for. I hung up softly, not in anger, but in the quiet certainty of someone who'd finally stopped setting herself on fire to keep others warm. Outside my apartment window, the city hummed with its indifferent music. Somewhere, my brother sat in a cell, facing consequences he'd evaded his entire life. Somewhere, my parents were rewriting their narrative, painting me as the villain in a story where I'd only ever been the scapegoat. But here, in the stillness of my own space, I was neither hero nor villain. I was simply whole.